It's a fight that we might not have wanted, but it's the fight that we're going to get. Unfortunately, Tresean Gore is out of his Ultimate Fighter finale. He was one of the 4 fighters that were going to be in the finales, the only one out of Team Ortega. Poor Brian Ortega. But if you do look at it, I mean, wow. That would have been a great fight against Bryan Battle. Unfortunately, there you have the guy that lost by knockout to Gore in his last fight in the semis. You have Gilbert Urbina, brother of Hector Urbina, that was in the UFC and then on the Ultimate Fighter, brother of Eli Urbina. That was all over the place. Both of those guys, he was on the Ultimate Fighter and Dana White's Contender Series, but it's a really special family connection, obviously, for the Urbinas. Gilbert coming out of BMF Ranch, the camp. You might have heard of it. Daniel Rodriguez also on this card. But for Gilbert Urbina, there's a lot of things that I really like out of him other than the fact that he's like one of the Stahl brothers in the NHL. Like, it's kind of like the Sutters. You ever listen to the Sutters from the NHL? I'm going to go a little off script here, but they're always like, oh, you know, brother Daryl, brother Mark, brother so-and-so. Like they reference them as, hey, brother. But I look at the way that Gilbert Urbina fights, and it's a lot of fun. He switches stances. He throws a nice jab out there. He throws a nice front kick like that kind of prods to the stomach. He really softens his opponents up, and he's got great wrestling to back everything up. So if striking fails, he can wrestle. But you look at him, the way that he fought against Gore, he got dropped by a jab like 4 times before he ended up getting finished. It was such a bad look in that fight that it's tough to get excited when he takes on a guy like Bryan Battle. And listen, this is the odds-on FNP favorite out of anybody this weekend to get a win. Like, the fans can't get enough of them. I'm going to throw it on over to the YouTube community tab because people out there have answered and in full force. Drew Cliff 82 again said, Battle 100%. I would have picked Gore if he was still in there, though. UFH says Battle should definitely win. It'd be pretty funny if Urbina won the tough finale after getting knocked out, though. Aaron the Dog MMA, Bryan Battle was beating any of these guys in the final. Kyle Kelly had Battle to beat Gore and still having to beat Gilbert. I see Battle winning on points. Great fight. There's a lot of different people out there that are picking Battle to win. They're picking them on Instagram. They're picking them on my Twitter. I think it's a great fight, but Bryan Battle is one of those guys that might not have had a huge wrestling background coming into MMA, might not have had a huge extensive striking background coming into MMA. He just became this great MMA fighter through an extensive amateur career where he beat guys like Cody Brundage and Impa Kasanganay. He out-wrestled Impa Kasanganay as an amateur. Like, this guy's career is almost like storybook. It's like, yeah, I'll do MMA, I guess, and then just become great at it. Like, it's just crazy to see. So Bryan Battle's got a great opportunity. I say the guy with obviously the more, maybe not polished skill set, but the guy with the experience in his corner, especially of having his brothers on the show, Gilbert Urbina. It's a weird fight, but I really do like it. I think it's a good one.
This should be an interesting fight. The issue is that this isn't the fight that we all really wanted, and that really is the problem. Because if Gore was against Battle, it would have been phenomenal. That's a fight I know I would have been really, really excited for. The problem with Urbina is, and this is the problem that I had with his brother's fighting style too, is he throws kicks without throwing combinations before or after. He just throws kicks for the sake of throwing kicks sometimes, and it will leave him open to punches on the other end. Even look at Hector Urbina fight Vicente Luque. He misses big. He's huge for the weight class, and he's throwing everything very wide. There's not a lot of precision to his strikes, and the same thing can be said for Gilbert Urbina. If he is in there with very technical strikers, I think they're always going to be able to get from point A to point B faster than he is, if he isn't able to overwhelm them with sort of his wildness, because he does have sort of an erratic way of fighting. It is a lot of a lot of fast movements and whatnot, not to move like our boy Ben Rothwell up at heavyweight, but there is a lot of unpredictability to what Urbina does. And again, I think that it's a benefit for him, but when you fight those really, really good technicians, it's going to be a detriment. And Bryan Battle's interesting because, like you said, really jack of all trades, master of none. It is wild to go back and look at that Impa Kasanganay win because Impa Kasanganay is a monster on the mat. And I understand it's a very different fighter. Impa Kasanganay is a much more improved guy, but still, it's a really good win to have. And the thing about Battle is he's good on the feet in the positions where guys who only have experience are good at. Like, he can strike his way into the clinch. He can throw those uppercuts on the inside of the clinch that will just score points and just will damage your opponent. Again, I think you set it up almost perfectly. Like, Bryan Battle, it's not storybook in a way that like Francis Ngannou came from the sand mines and then was homeless and all that. But like, just the fact that Bryan Battle was able to pick up this sport and be so good at it so early on is fairly impressive.
Well, I mean, to me, like, go back and watch his fight against Petrosky. Like, Petrosky's the guy that I don't know if the UFC want him to be the, the big kind of dark horse winner, if you want to say, out of the whole Ultimate Fighter. But Petrosky goes to take him down and he kind of grabs his leg and goes to pick him up in the air. And then Battle just kind of weathers the storm and ultimately ends up with a nice head and arm choke to finish him. Like, it was really fun to watch that fight and go, okay, Bryan Battle can hang with a really good wrestler. He can hang with the strikers. He can kind of do everything. Not to say that Gilbert Urbina can't. Gilbert Urbina is a really, really well-rounded guy with a lot of experience in his back pocket. I look at the odds. Battle's somewhere in the range. He opened a -129. He's a -163 on best fight odds. Urbina opened a -101. He's a +136. Tapology votes, they're not close. 851 total votes, 81% Battle, 60% by decision for the 19% that have Urbina, 56% by decision. I think this fight's probably going to go to a decision. I know, I just read that off the internet with the Tapology votes, but like in my mind, in my notes, I have this one to go to decision. And I think Bryan Battle's going to be able to win out here. I think he's such a well-rounded fighter. I think he's one of those guys that, yeah, it might be because there's so much hype behind him. But from what I watched out of the season, this guy seems like the most UFC ready out of all of these guys, which, again, that might be controversial. You might be a huge Petrosky fan, but I'll remind you that Bryan Battle finished him. So I really do like Battle here, and I can't wait for this fight.
Yeah, I think this should be a really good fight. And again, don't get down on it just because Urbina lost his last fight. Like, entertainment-wise, this still should be a great co-main event. And again, these guys are fighting for the Ultimate Fighter title. This really does mean something. They're not just two guys in the prelims fighting to get another shot in the UFC. Like, this is a big deal to become the Ultimate Fighter champion. So Urbina has a massive opportunity. But again, I do have to pick Bryan Battle. Like you said, I do feel like he is very UFC ready. That's a great way of putting it, too. Sometimes in the NBA draft, here's a great example, and you might not like this. Jalen Suggs might be better in his rookie year than Scotty Barnes. But when you look at both guys' ceiling in the long term, Scotty Barnes should have a higher ceiling long term. That could be a reference to this fight as well. I like Bryan Battle, though.
Owen Power is going to be a great player in the NHL. Can't wait for him to go back to college this year. All sorts of fun. Matt, we have a big-time fight. Both of us going with your middleweight winner to be Bryan Battle. I can't wait for this one. Great fights on the rest of the card. If you missed them already, you should go back and check them. But if you haven't, there's one left. Edson Barboza is taking on Giga Chikadze. It is a striker's paradise. It's a great end. It's a great cap to an Ultimate Fighter finale. You're not going to want to miss that one. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.